What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another edition of the Fan Committee Football Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joe Keenan, as always, joined by my co-host, Michael Herrera. And today, for the second straight Friday, we have a special guest joining us. He is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. He is a member of the Westchester Golden Rams lacrosse team. That is one, Matt Mueller, making his Fan Committee debut. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I've been excited. I've wanted to do this for a really long time, and I'm really excited.
We're always talking about the birds. We're always talking football. So I'm happy to finally get you on the pod. Mike, how are you doing today as well? We all watched a little bit of this terrible Thursday night game last night. So I don't know. I think we're all a little still in shock of how poor that game was. How are you feeling today, Mike?
I mean, it was a bad game. I think it's shameful that the Broncos have already had two primetime games and they've only scored about
three.
Or three. Oh yeah, they have had three. I forgot the first game of the season. They have already. I mean, the last two primetime games they've only scored 9 and 10 points, and that's insane to me.
This offense is just incompetent, which is surprising considering Nathaniel Hackett. I think he called plays right in Green Bay.
What I understand is LaFleur calls them, but he designed the plays. He would during the week heading up into the games, he would scheme everything, and then LaFleur would take his plays and implement them, and then Rodgers would do what he wants with them afterwards. But yeah, Rodgers and LaFleur loved him apparently. I don't know what's going on. I picked him to win Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I can't understand really what's going on. And at the end of the game, you have some funny moments second down, 2 minutes, 20 seconds left, and you need a first down to win the game. The Colts have one timeout. You throw it to the end zone, it gets picked off by Stephon Gilmore, and all the Broncos fans just start leaving immediately because they know it's going to happen. And sure enough, goes to overtime, and they don't pull it out in the end.
Yeah, I was saying on Twitter, it's no way the Broncos fans are leaving before overtime. But then they lost the game, so I guess they were right to leave early. I mean, the Colts got the field goal. And then obviously I was just mesmerized that they didn't it was, what was it? It was 4th and 1. I was like, why wouldn't they just try to get the first down? There's 2.5 minutes left in overtime. They have plenty of time to at least try to get the tie or certainly try to win the game. But instead, Wilson just sails a pass into the end zone when all he needed was a yard. He didn't try to scramble at all. They didn't have anyone in the flat. I didn't even know what to make of that. Mike, what about you? How are you reacting to this overtime?
I mean, as both of you highlighted, it's just kind of a lot of offensive ineptitude from the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos, they have great players. They finally have KJ Hamler healthy for a season. He's finally back. You have Cortland Sutton, who's an amazing just 50-50 ball guy. And then you have Russell Wilson, who's one of the best, mobile quarterbacks of all time. And half the time, he's not even trying to do what makes him so special. And it's a shame because, as you guys have mentioned, Nathaniel Hackett was the OC for the Packers last year, and they were a lot. It's weird to see the Packers offense last year compared to the Broncos offense this year. You'd think they'd be similar, and obviously it's not Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, but you'd think they'd be a little similar, but evidently not. And it's just offensive ineptitude is the only words for that, because a team with this much talent should not be this bad, on top of the fact that they paid Russell Wilson the franchise quarterback, and he's playing a third string backup right now. And it's shameful behavior from someone of his caliber.
So. Yeah, I mean, they said, I saw a tweet, he's going to make $54 million in 2025. That's a long while off, and he's already not looking too good. Just to wrap up this game, I don't want to talk about it much more, but as you mentioned, the Broncos have a ton of talent on offense. Obviously, they lost Javonte for the year, which is brutal. Their defense is really good, so I'll credit them there. But, Mina Kimes had a tweet I thought was really funny. She said, why are the Broncos running their offense through these NPC backup tight ends? And that's literally what they do. There's all these goofy white tight ends out there. Matt, do you know any of their names? Because I've started to put them to memory because they're in there so often, but at first I didn't know who any of them were.
So, I mean, I know, Albert O.
He's the worst one somehow.
And then, Andrew Beck, I thought was a receiver until I saw your tweet about it. So I don't know. I really don't know.
And then there's two Erics. There's Eric Salbert and Eric Tomlinson. These guys are getting more targets than Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler are at times. And they also don't use Melvin Gordon as in the passing game. We're not really going in the Colts either. The Colts were bad last night too. But at the same time, And the Colts are bad, but I also think like not having Taylor, like not having Shaquille Leonard, having the O-line banged up, that's part of the reason they're playing so bad. But it seems anyone who plays the Broncos sinks to their level. Like think about the Niners. Like, but then they look great the week before and the week after. So it feels like the Broncos are just a curse for anyone who plays against them.
Just like
Yeah,
one thing
yeah.
I saw on Twitter that I thought was unbelievable was that. So first of all, Matt Ryan already has 7 interceptions, which is Carson Wentz's ending season total last year. But another crazy thing I saw, Matt Ryan's been sacked 19 times, and I think with Andrew Luck's first year, or his last year he played, which was
Yeah.
Reich's first year, he had 19 sacks, I think, on the whole season.
Wow.
And Phillip Rivers only had like 18 somehow.
It's because that O-line was the best in football, and even
Yeah.
last year was pretty good still. I don't know what happened. I know there's a couple injuries, like Ryan Kelly's hurt right now, but me and Mike, we previewed the Colts. We said they were going to be great. We didn't think the O-line was going to take a step back, and here we are. They look terrible.
It's been a mess, especially because, like, as you mentioned, like the whole Carson Wentz thing. We all thought that improving on Matt Ryan was going to be a huge improvement, and Matt Ryan has played terribly as well. But also, we've seen a lot of regression from guys like Braden Smith and Matt Pryor. And Matt Pryor wasn't excellent, but he was definitely better
Former
than he's
Eagle
played
Matt
this year.
Pryor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a mess. And I also agree with the whole like tight end thing you guys were talking about with like the Broncos. It's kind of weird the way that their offense is being seen. Similar to the Colts as well. I mean, Pittman didn't really do anything last night, weirdly enough. I mean, Pierce, I understood why Pierce was getting targets because he was a second round draft pick. He was good, yeah. But like Pittman wasn't getting targets, neither was, Mo Alley Cox or even like Jelani Woods. I mean, there's a lot of guys on both these teams who should have been getting the ball, and none of them were, and it was kind of weird. Like they were throwing it to these backups and stuff like that, and it was just, I don't know, it's a very interesting way to run your team, and it seems like it hasn't been working out for either of them so far. So
Yeah, these were two teams I thought were playoff teams, and both their offenses look just non-existent right now. But enough with this gloom and doom about the Broncos and the Colts. Let's get to a happier topic. The undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, Matt. Wow. I mean, we were already saying we thought they were going to be really good, but did you imagine such a perfect start to the season? What has impressed you the most as an Eagles fan? I know you've been dying for this the past few years.
I am like extremely impressed. I don't know what I could point to more. The fact that Jonathan Gannon actually knows how to coach defense has shocked me. Jalen Hurts' leadership has been unbelievable. Like I've been watching all the like post-game locker room speeches, and rain, sleet, or snow, the Eagles train to go, and he's got them like working like clockwork right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't believe all the offseason moves, like I was impressed with, but things tend to, like when people just sign a bunch of people, they don't always tend to work out. Like we saw with the Patriots last year, it's hit and miss. I feel like the Eagles so far have hit on every single move they've made, not to mention the improvement from Hurts, the improvement from Miles Sanders, and just across the team. They've looked pretty much flawless at almost every position.
I think they're the best team in the league. I think we can all kind of agree on that, even like if some of us here are Eagles fans. I mean, I think they're a great team. I mean, they've done everything right, even in games that they've played less than stellar, like in the Jaguars game. They're still able to come back and like really rally around, Jalen Hurts and really win that game. I think that this team, if they keep doing how they're doing, they should be fine. I do think their one issue though is that they're not establishing a run game at all. It's kind of weird that Miles Sanders, he has the capability to be an excellent running back, and he'll just disappear some game. But when Miles Sanders is your starter and he's your most dynamic running back, it's a little odd to just leave him out of your offense from time to time, which is kind of what I feel their issue is that their offense kind of runs through one player each week instead of just spreading the ball around, because that's probably going to lead to some injuries happening, and that's not what you want. So.
Yeah, that's fair, because we saw Miles really explode last week in the Hurricane game, and he got a ton of touches. We saw Devontae the week before get a lot of touches. Week 1, it was all going through A.J. Brown. Matt, is that a problem for you, or are you okay with that? And also, do you think they're going to start to spread the targets around going forward?
I don't know. I think that they're just kind of game planning like who's gonna beat who every game. And week 1 it was AJ Brown, like you said, and this week, it was a rainy game. They said we're gonna run Miles. I think he got like 25 carries or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a little much for me in a normal game that isn't raining. I mean, anything around like 15 to 20 is probably perfect for me when it comes to how many carries Miles should get. Yeah, no, I think that they'll probably spread it around more. I think Smitty and AJ will start being more balanced in their stat lines.
I think Devontae, I have him in fantasy this year. He had the 30-point game. Last week he was week 1 he had nothing. So I hope that they can start to balance the Brown and Devonta wide receiver tandem. Goddard's great too. I just think that the Eagles Hurts I knew was going to take a step forward, but he's kind of like an MVP candidate. I don't think I envisioned that either. Matt, do you think that's sustainable? Do you think Hurts do you think people start to figure him out, or do you think he's just going to be this good?
I don't know if he's going to keep this up the entire year, but I've been watching, obviously probably 90% of the offensive snaps so far this year, and he really does not put the ball in danger at all. Like his only bad throw that I can remember was the pick six. He threw it into triple coverage. It's a rainy game. It was early in the game. It wasn't smart, but his only other pick was on a screen that went off the running back's hand.
Yeah, and that was in the Vikings game where your guys were already up big in the second half. I love that. By the way, I love that. Matt, we always talk about Eagles destroy the Vikings, Packers beat down the Cowboys. It's a great marriage of our teams here, but I love seeing that, especially after the Vikings killed us in week 1. So, I guess the next piece for the Eagles, they have a very easy schedule, but people have kind of talked about that. I don't really buy it because you can have an easy schedule, but when you look at how good the Eagles have been, I don't care who they're playing. They've been lights out. Mike, would you agree with that, or do you think that the schedule is maybe a concern for the Eagles' contention status in the playoffs?
No, I would agree that they have had an easy schedule. I don't think any of us will deny that they have played some easy teams, but I don't think that disparages that the fact that they're playing well. It's not just 1 or 2 score games. It's by quite a lot of points. So yeah, it's an easy schedule, but I think the Eagles are actually a good team. I don't think it's really going to matter once they play harder teams, because I really can't think of any team right now that could match up to them.
I think in the NFC, I definitely agree. I think the AFC, I still would probably favor the Bills or the Chiefs, but the Eagles aren't that far off if this defense is going to keep playing as well as it has. Hassan Reddick just won Defensive Player of the Week. Bradbury and Slay have been really good. So yeah, I agree. I think the Eagles' schedule is easy, but they also are making a mockery. We saw what they did to the Commanders last week, and I know the Commanders are a bit of a laughingstock, but they also put up a lot of points earlier in the season. So I don't know. I was impressed with them really every game so far. Matt, if you could is there anything at all with this team that worries you, or are you just all in right now?
So we actually did score more in the second half, late in the game against the Jaguars, and that was something I really wanted to see. We didn't even wait till we had a touchdown lead by halftime.
Yeah.
We didn't even need the rest of the game to do it. I don't know. I guess I just need to see. I want to see what they do against the Cardinals. I'm afraid of Kyler late in the game, just because usually second half the Cardinals realize whatever Cliff was planning was bad, and they kind of just let Kyler, do his talent thing and run around until they're only down by 5. So that's what I'm worried about, if anything.
What about Dallas? You worried about them getting Dak back? What do you think about that?
Dallas's defense looks really good, and obviously they have to play very well right now because their offense can only get them about 20 points a game. But yeah, I'm a little worried about that. I'm excited to see how we do against that defense, but I feel like our defense is going to have our way with their offense, because whether it's Dak or Cooper Rush, they're I just don't see the Cowboys being that productive against us. And I would love to go into the bye. We have a week 7 bye, so I'd love to go into that 6-0.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. Are you guys home for the Dallas game next week?
Yes, it's Sunday Night Football.
That's going to be
prime
big.
time.
Nice. That's an exciting contest, especially if Dak is back. I think that Mike, you tell me if you agree with this. I think the Eagles are going to swallow up the run game the next 2 weeks with James Conner and then the Zeke Pollard tandem. I can't see those units generating a lot of rush yards. Maybe Kyler himself will have to scramble around, but I think the Eagles could really come close to not pitching a shutout necessarily, but holding these two teams to 10 to 14 points the next 2 weeks.
I do agree with what Matt was saying about the Cardinals. We might see Kyler Murray try to pull out some late game magician type plays, but I don't think that's really going to happen, considering the Eagles are by far the strongest team that the Cardinals are going to face, have faced this far into the season. And as for the Cowboys game, me personally, it's going to make me sound like a hater, but I don't think the Cowboys defense has proven anything to me personally, because they've played bad teams. We saw week 1, they got destroyed. And week 2, they played the Bengals. It was a very bad game on both sides. They played the Giants and the Commanders. I just haven't seen them play an actual good team, with actually good offensive firepower. Because even with the Bengals, the Bengals beat the Dolphins last week, unfortunately. But even the Dolphins were able to shut down their offense for the most part. We kept the receivers in check, even like all three of them. So I don't think the Cowboys defense has proven that they're actually good enough yet. Until I see them like play well against a good team, I'm not going to sit here and claim that the Cowboys are a good team overall, because I think offensively they're very lackluster, as you guys were also saying.
I also think, a lot of people have been talking about how Micah's been getting like double and triple teamed. If anyone's going to keep Micah in check, it's the Eagles' offensive line.
Yeah,
that's another key, Matt. I think that's another key. Like if they're going to get Sanders going, like the O-line might do. What do you think is the strength of the Eagles team? There's a lot of good points. Is the O-line the best unit? Is it the D-line? Is it the secondary? What would you give it to?
I think everything runs through our O-line because we are so effective at running out of shotgun. It allows for us to just keep going back and forth between, RPOs, like Hurts can hand it off or he can throw it, or out of shotgun, you can also run a read option. Hurts can keep it himself or hand it off. And these defenses just have no clue what to do because we can do everything out of shotgun.
Is Mailata healthy? I know he came off the field last week. I haven't seen any updates on him.
He might be able to play this week, but my thoughts are they're going to sit him for Dallas because we could probably do with, I think Jack Driscoll will be starting at left tackle. He's been a solid backup for a year or two now. So
yeah, I get him healthy for sure for that big game. I'm just really excited to see, Jalen is like creeping into the territory. Like Kyler versus Jalen is a debate almost now. And if Jalen wins this week, and I guess this can bring us to the game pick here. We can start with the Eagles-Cardinals game, even though it's not the first game. But I don't know. Like, Jalen's kind of on that level now. Would you agree with that, Matt? If he can win this?
I mean, like, future-wise, I'm probably taking Jalen just because, like, while Kyler, his ceiling's probably higher, he puts the ball in danger more. Mm-hmm. And also, when it comes to the pick, I just want to note, too, that the Cardinals, this game is in Arizona. The Cardinals are 0-2 at home right now. So that's something. Their only 2 wins are on the road, so.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, Jalen was kind of commenting at the presser the other day. He's like, the Cardinals are a good team. We don't want to undersell them. I kind of disagree with Jalen there.
He's got to say that though.
Yeah, that's true. I know. I'm just saying, like, it's just kind of funny for me to hear that. It's like, well, they're not really a threat at all. I'm definitely going the Eagles this week. They're going to move to 5-0 against the Cardinals. I'm not a Cardinals guy. I've said it before. And like I was saying about Jalen and Kyler, like, Kyler just, I don't know, like he doesn't give me the leadership qualities that someone like Jalen is, as you talked about, Matt, has started to display. I feel like he kind of thinks he just should be handed the world, even though he hasn't proven anything. What do you think about that, Mike?
As for like the whole thing about him saying like we can't underestimate them, I don't think they're a bad team necessarily, but I think you also just like have to be in the mindset like we can't underestimate this team because that's really going to bite you in the ass in the worst way possible. It doesn't matter how much better your team should be than another team. If you start getting too overconfident, you have to. But that's what I like about Jalen Hurts. He just seems kind of like a guy who's a really good leader, and he seems like a stand-up guy. He knows what he's doing, and I think he's really going to go far. I do think he's an MVP candidate so far. I don't think he'll beat out Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes if they keep playing the way they're playing, unfortunately, because Patrick Mahomes just and like Jalen Hurts isn't them. Unfortunately, they're just insane. These are some of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. They are the 2 best, me personally, I think. But he's definitely going to be that third guy, I think, in that MVP race.
I mean, I would put Josh in there, but I think Jalen is definitely in the discussion as well.
I think Josh Allen sometimes is prone to like reverting to rookie year Josh Allen. He just makes a really bonehead throw sometimes. So I think, and like, I still think he's one of the best. I would put him like top 5 for sure. Like, I'm not going to say Josh Allen's not amazing, but I just think that he's just not as consistent as like the other 3. So
I guess we'll see how it plays out. I'm still really in on the Bills this year, so we'll have to see how it shakes out. I think the weather last week really impacted that. But let's get to the picks here. So I already said I'm going with the Eagles. What do you guys say, Mike? Who you got this week?
I mean, it's the Eagles for sure. I don't really see them losing to the Cardinals. And if they do, that's not a great sign, but it could also just be like a little bit of a misstep. Like he had a bad game. It remains to be seen, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Eagles are just too good for them to mess up.
Mueller, I think we know who you're going with, but who you got?
I'm going to shock everyone here, and I'm going to pick the Eagles. This game, it has like a little bit of like a trap game feel to me, which is what I'm a little worried about, but I'd much rather take this loss this week. I think if we lost this week, we would be fine against Dallas because then we really hammer it home in practice. So if we're gonna lose, I hope it's this week.
I think a loss would only increase your chances of winning against Dallas, but I think you're just going to be 6-0. I got the Eagles as well. So we can move to the rest of the games now, starting with an unbelievably scheduled London game for my Green Bay Packers. I have to wake up at 9:30 in the morning to watch this game. I tweeted last weekend, if we lose to Bailey Zappi, I will not be waking up for this game. But we didn't lose the game. We won 27-24. I was actually pleased with how we played in the fourth quarter and overtime. We finally looked like how I actually wanted the Packers to look. And going up against the Giants here, they have Saquon. Our run defense has been a little suspect, so I'm a little worried about that. That being said, Richie James Jr. and David Sills as the top two receivers doesn't scare me whatsoever. I don't know who the Giants are going with at quarterback. I guess it's Daniel Jones, but he did get hurt a little bit last week. I don't really care who it is. I think Rashawn Gary could have another huge game this week. I think our secondary is going to lock them up. I'm going the Packers with an easy London win.
For sure, I totally agree. I think if the Packers lose this game, that's not a good look, but I don't see that happening in any which way because, we've talked about this plenty of times on the podcast. I think like for 2 episodes in a row now, Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in the NFL or the starting quarterback in the NFL right now. The Packers easily are the much better team offensively and defensively. And as you mentioned, the linebacking core, I think this is the game that's really going to help the linebacking core figure out their chemistry and just work out some of the kinks that they've been working through. Because we've discussed how the run defensive time has been a little weak in terms of the interior linebackers. But I think playing against the Giants, playing against Saquon, Saquon himself is going to be the test, but I think playing against that beat up offensive line is really going to help these Packers figure out what's happening defensively. Because I think sometimes they've had a few lapses in terms of their defense because they have a good defense. It's just sometimes they play a little badly, and it doesn't help that they've had some injuries, especially to an important guy like Jair Alexander. But as you told me recently, you think it seems to be just like a minor groin injury, so he should be back for the game.
Yeah, I think he's playing this weekend. If he doesn't, he's playing next week. It's not a major thing at all. No surgery, nothing like that.
Yeah, well, my pick, unsurprisingly, will be Packers by at least 14. And, all due respect to the Giants, I like the Giants, but the Packers are just a much better team.
Yeah. Matt, what do you say? You're usually pro Packers when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I've always liked the Packers. I just have a lot of respect for Aaron Rodgers. I got them winning this. When it comes to the Giants, I think that their coaching staff seems actually pretty promising. They just have such a terrible roster. Also, I just wanted to bring up Kenny Golladay. That's so hilarious. I thought he was such a good receiver when he was in Detroit, and I was so shocked to see him just go to New York and do nothing. And since it's a division rival of the Eagles, I can't say I'm not excited about it, but it's surprising.
I always liked him, even though he's on the Lions. I liked him a lot. He led the league in receiving touchdowns one year. And I know they got Tony and Robinson as the younger guys, but they're both hurt as well. So this receiving core is a train wreck. I'm interested to see the matchup between who PFF ranks as the number 1 tackle in the league right now. That's Andrew Thomas, who's started to come into his own. I'm interested to see him go against Rashawn Gary this week because I think Rashawn Gary might lower his PFF grade down a little bit this week. I'm excited to see that.
Also about London games, does anybody here actually like them? I think they're so obnoxious.
Me and Mike talked about this last week. We hate them. We hate them so much.
I think the idea is kind of interesting. It's kind of cool to see stuff like that. But I think the problem is the time is so inconvenient. At least for us, we're college students. We're going to be up late on Saturdays. We're not going to be getting up at 9:30 to watch an NFL game, especially with the way these primetime games are shaken out. It might even. Well, I don't know if you consider this primetime, but a different
9:30 in the morning isn't primetime.
Not you know what I'm trying to say, a special game, it's dictated to be this is important or whatever, it's just I don't know. It's just, I think the idea is interesting. I think a London game would be a lot cooler, at nighttime or something. If you made a London game actually a primetime game, I think that would be an interesting idea. The problem is that they're not. They're at 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and most people aren't getting up at that hour. And it's definitely
what if they made it in the 1 o'clock schedule? So the London game would be during red zone, but it would be at night in London. So it'd be a night game for the people in London, but here it's just a normal game. I think that's a cool idea. I don't really know exactly how the times align, but it's a daytime.
I just checked. It would be 6 p.m. in London, which I think is a fine time to start a
Yeah,
game.
they
That's
could
a
even make
great
it
time for a
They
game.
could even put it at the 4 o'clock slate to make it like a night game in London. Like, I don't know. Either way,
That's a
I
great
think it
idea,
works.
actually.
Like, they should. We need to call the NFL offices and suggest this. I think that's a great idea.
So I'll forward it to them and we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, we'll use our sources to get to them. Okay. Well, anyway,
For sure.
Packers clean sweep. That's what we got, but we hate the London games. All right, moving on. Patriots Lions. Pats are home for this. Think the Lions will be a bit more healthy this week. They got the number 1 scoring offense and they have the number 1 points allowed in the league. So their worst defense, best offense right now. I think the Lions get a nice commanding win over Mr. Bailey Zappi and his 99 passing yards.
I think the Lions are just a much better team. They may be 1-3, but they're by far like the best 1-3 we've seen in a long time. Funny enough, I mean the Lions are insane. Amon St. Brown, he's back at practice today. Hopefully he's playing in this game because it's going to be huge for them. Jamal Williams is going to have a great day, I assume. I think the Patriots defense is very lackluster at times. I know the Patriots defense played excellently, all things considered, against the Packers. But I think that was more just because the Packers didn't really play that well that game. So I don't think the Lions should, because Jared Goff, surprisingly has played pretty good this season. And, I think the Lions are just a better team, even if the records would say otherwise.
I got the Lions. I'm really rooting for them here. I think that, honestly, if it wasn't for that defense, they could probably, contend for winning the NFC North. It's because, the Packers have taken steps back, and so the Vikings. I think the Packers would still probably pull it out in the end, but it would at least be close. And it's just sad seeing them consistently put up 35-plus every week and lose by 3 somehow.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Patriots, I don't think they have a chance at winning many games this year without Mac. Because even when Mac plays at his best and he's accurate and decisive, it's still a close game every time. They can only win by 7. Even though Bailey Zapp played pretty well, I really doubt that they can even come close to winning this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think this will be a pretty easy win for the Lions, even on the road. So going to the next game, we got the Browns hosting the Chargers. This is interesting because both these teams have played pretty well. I'm a big Jacoby guy. I'm supporting his stint as the Browns starter until he who must not be named, unfortunately, returns later this season. But while he's out, the Browns are a lot of fun with this run attack. I love the Chubb Hunt balance. They've been great once again. Cooper's coming on, and I like Jacoby. But the Chargers got a lot of talent, and a lot of people are still supporting the Chargers. But I'm going to take the Browns here. I think they're at home. I'm going to take them. They might be – I feel like the Chargers will be favored in this game. I'm going to go with the Browns. I think the Chargers have a bad rush defense, and I think the Browns will easily exploit that. I'm going to go Cleveland here, but I'm interested to hear what you guys say.
I feel like the Chargers are still the better team. The Browns have been kind of shaky, to me at least. I mean, both teams are 2-2, so you can see both teams, they're kind of just mediocre. Mm-hmm. But honestly, the Browns have kind of just – I don't know. I like Jacoby Brissett, and I like what he's done. I think he's played admirably, but there's no way he outduels Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers offense is just insane. I don't think the Browns defense in any way can contain this offense. So I like the Browns, and I like the way they've played so far. But, we've seen them choke a few games this year so far, and I don't see that happening against the Chargers because I think the Chargers are going to kind of handily win. I think at least by a touchdown or 2.
Matt, who you got here? You can break the tie. Who you got?
I got the Chargers.
Okay.
I just think they need it, and Justin Herbert's going to win them this game because, at the end of the day, I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he's been playing well. Joe, me and you have talked about this before that, Jacoby's always been underrated, but I think Herbert wins this, and the Browns are they're weird to me. I think their defense is a little suspect. I think the Chargers are despite having such a stacked roster, they haven't really performed up to it yet, but I think this week we'll finally see that.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I won't be upset if my pick is wrong because I do like this Chargers roster a lot, but I'm going to ride with the Browns. I don't know. I kind of have a feeling. So moving on to the next game, I think we'll all agree on this one. The Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Texans. Jacksonville is kind of making a comeback this year. This defense has been really surprising, and the offense has also been really good too. Even after Trevor Lawrence had 4 fumbles against the Eagles, I'm still really confident in his ability, especially against the Texans. I got the Jags winning this pretty decisively.
I think the Jaguars, you've heard me rooting for them. I've been pushing that Jaguars propaganda all season. Okay. This is my second favorite team in the AFC right now. I don't know. I just like the Jaguars. I like what they're doing. And I think James Robinson is going to be huge in this game. Unfortunately, had a bit of a down game last week against the Eagles. He didn't get the ball a lot, which I think is unfortunate because that's the first thing you should be doing is establishing a run game when the game is kind of sloppy. And but I think we're going to see a lot of him this week because they're going to realize that mistake. They're going to go back to him, and he's really going to gash this Texans defense. And he's going to open up a lot of deep throws for Lawrence. So I see this Jaguars offense just really just ripping on all sides of the ball, and it's going to be insane.
Well, it kind of pains me to say this, but I got the Jags, and the reason why it pains me is because I have Dameon Pierce on my fantasy team, so I think they're going to be passing a lot this game. I don't think they're going to have much time to run at all. Doug Peterson, I think he's going to get a rebound, and the whole Jags roster and coaching staff, I have so much more confidence in them than I do in the Texans.
That's definitely fair. It's nice to see Doug Peterson succeed in Jacksonville. It's been a lot of fun to see them turn it around so fast, and I hope they had the 2017 run, but immediately plummeted back down to earth. But I think there's a lot of reasons for that were, almost predictable. And this time I think they're going to sustain it going forward now that they've got a good quarterback and a good coach. So I hope they win this one. So now we go to Atlanta visiting Tampa this week. Atlanta coming off a big win over the Browns. I've been very anti-Tom Brady this year. I said he looked washed up, said he looked out of focus. Now, I think he'll still be out of focus because I know he's getting divorced, but that's going to take more focus away from him. That's not going to help him, at least not in the short term. But I don't know. Maybe Tom Brady will have a fire lit under him. He also owns the Falcons. So I'll give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the win this week, even though I am pretty anti-Tampa this year. I think the Bucs win this one.
I kind of want to disagree. I think we might see.
Okay. You are a Falcons guy. I don't buy anything they've done this year.
I like what the Falcons have done. I think they've shown some promise. Actually, no, I can't. You're right. I think the Bucs are a better team. Unfortunately, I want to go Falcons. I think the Falcons will put up a good fight. But ultimately, I don't think they can beat the Buccaneers as much as the Buccaneers.
They don't have Patterson this week. It's Caleb Huntley and Damian Williams.
Oh, yeah, Damian Williams on IR. It's a Caleb Huntley. What's his name? Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
All due respect. Sorry, I can't say your name. But no, I want to go Falcons, but I think the Buccaneers, even though I think the Buccaneers have vastly underperformed their expectations, and as has Tom Brady, which, by the way, I think it's insane that he's out here talking about, there's a lot of bad 2-2 teams out here. There's a lot of bad football being played.
You're one of them. Right.
You're one of the teams. And it just comes off, it just kind of goes to show you that, everything that's crumbling around Tom Brady, be it football-wise or personal life-wise, it's kind of his fault. You can't be talking here about, man, there's a lot of bad football being played. You're playing just as bad as these other teams, man.
Right.
Don't. He also said it unprompted, which just further makes me dislike Tom Brady. But the Buccaneers, I feel, have vastly underperformed their expectations. I know their defense has played remarkably well and has kept them in games, but there's only so much. That's true. There's only so much your defense can do when you play an actually good team. Or not actually good, but when you play a team like the Chiefs game really showed that the Buccaneers defense can't really hold up against a high power offense. So even though they will beat the Falcons and probably trick themselves into thinking they're better than they actually are, it's going to come crashing down again. So I don't see the Buccaneers, even though the Bucs will win, they are my pick. I don't see them doing too much this season. So.
Yeah, well, we got one of the biggest Tom Brady haters I know in Matt here. Matt, who you got in this game?
I got the Bucs, but I think they're gonna win ugly. I just had how they have been the last couple weeks. I think Arthur Smith, maybe he'll put it together at some point, but he's really limiting this roster in my eyes.
Arthur Smith is another one. He's kind of in that Nate Hackett group. He's offensive genius as a coordinator, and he comes and it's can you manage a team? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But he's part of the reason I really don't like what the Falcons are doing. But yeah, I got Tampa, as I already said. So we'll move on to the next game. Bills-Steelers. Kenny Pickett's first start. His first 5 starts are all brutal. He has a ton of hard games coming up, including against Mike's Dolphins. Starts with the Bills here. Give me the Bills by 20-plus points. I think they're going to eat the Steelers alive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think Kenny Pickett, he's going to play admirably. He's definitely going to show that he can be a future quarterback.
I think he's not gonna have any time to do anything.
I think he'll play okay because I think he definitely. I saw some people. I saw some film comparisons that are talking about when you look at Kenny Pickett, he at least gets the ball out and attempts to throw it, unlike Trubisky who just takes a sack. Okay. So I think play okay. I don't think he's going to play amazingly. I do think the Bills are just going to demolish them, but I think he's definitely going to show some potential. And is he the franchise quarterback? I don't know. I'm personally not a big Kenny Pickett fan. I think it's kind of odd that he was taken in the first round. But I think he'll show some potential to at least maybe salvage the Steelers season a little bit. Maybe they can sneak into a wild card. But at this rate, I think that the Steelers are heading towards mediocrity, and I don't think Mike Tomlin can save this roster because this roster just hasn't played well either. There's a lot of good guys on this team, and they just haven't played to the level they should be either. But the Bills, even though the Bills had kind of an off game last week, I think they're going to bounce back against just not a good Steelers team.
It'll be a tough fight, I think, just because the Steelers, it's going to take them a while to get those points, just because the Steelers defense, regardless of who they lose, they just seem to continue to play well and hold teams to under 25. So I think the Bills will win it in the end, but it might take a little while for them to finally put it away.
Yeah, and we saw the Steelers upset them week 1 last year. I think it'll be a little different this year, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. So then we got the Jets and the Dolphins, Mike's Dolphins without Tua, Teddy's first start of the season on the road. I've got the Jets. I'm in on the Jets. I like a lot of their players. I like their receiving core. I just don't think Teddy. I like Teddy, but I just don't see him really lighting it up with those receivers this week. I'm gonna go Jets slightly. This will be a close game, but I'm gonna go Jets.
Yeah, that's fair. I understand why you would say that. Me personally, I still think the Dolphins are the better team, so I still think we can win. I think Teddy Bridgewater played well enough when he came for relief for Tua in the second half of the Bengals game. But I think the Jets have played pretty well, and I do think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be one of the better games of the week. I think I'm not going to say it's game of the week, but for me personally, it is. Besides being just a Dolphins fan, I think it is going to be a good game, especially with Mike McDaniel and Robert Saleh. These are two guys who were on San Francisco's coaching staff together, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see that. But I think the Dolphins' defense is really going to crash down on Zach Wilson, who doesn't have the best pocket awareness, and especially when his offensive line has not played excellently because they've been just ravaged by injuries. So I think the Dolphins' defense is going to be huge in this game. That's really going to help any weaknesses we might see with the offense. So I'm going to go Dolphins because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I also just think we are the better team and we can win this game. But I do think it's going to be good, and I think the Jets are going to keep it close. But Dolphins hopefully for the win.
Yeah, Matt, you're sympathetic to the Dolphins usually. How do you think they'll do this week?
So yeah, I got the Dolphins. Back when Brian Flores was the coach, because of that defense, whatever the year it was that Xavier Howard had 10 interceptions, I kind of picked them to be my secondary team to root for because that year the Eagles were bad. And I was like, all right, the Dolphins are my team this year. And after all the Stephen Ross stuff, all those allegations and all that, and then Brian Flores getting fired, I was kind of maybe not anymore. I don't know if I want to support this team. But from what I've seen, it's how could I not? They're exciting. And I'm picking the Dolphins because I trust Mike McDaniel to find a way to get the ball to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill that's within the realm of Teddy Bridgewater's capabilities. So he's going to find ways to scheme them open or get the ball to them. And also, I like to point out this is a war between former San Fran coordinators. Mike McDaniel was on the offense, Robert Saleh coaching the defense. So I think it's going to be a bit of a defensive slugfest, but I think it's going to be a really competitive, close game.
Yeah, I think it definitely will be close, but I don't know. I kind of I just want to believe in the Jets. I don't know why. So that's why
I do really like the Jets roster. I don't want to downplay that at all. I trust Mike McDaniel more than Robert Saleh right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So moving on to another team, a team that can't be trusted is the Chicago Bears. They're playing the Vikings, Minnesota at home. Bears might run a lot in this game because that's all they can do. Give me the Vikings. I think they're going to, really tear the Bears apart. Even though the defense has been playing all right, I don't see it working out once again for the Bears. I think they're going to lose.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I do think I like what the Bears have done. I like that last week they played a little better. We saw Darnell Mooney finally do something for once. But overall, they've played terribly, and they're just not a good team. They're definitely one of the bottom teams in the league right now. Definitely top 3 draft pick for sure at this point. And the Vikings, they've been a little up and down, but I think they are handily going to beat them, especially because Justin Jefferson definitely bounced back in the Saints game in London. And yeah, I think Vikings are going to easily win this game. I don't have much to say about it because the Bears just suck a lot. So.
Yeah, they do. They do. Now, what do you
Yeah,
say?
I got the Vikings in this game. I just think they have a better roster, head coach, like everything top to bottom. Although I have a sneaking suspicion that Kirk will make it a game at the end of the towards the end.
I hope he does. Kirk. Okay. Next game, Commanders Titans. Jesus, I could care less about this game. You know, Derrick Henry looked terrible first 2 weeks. I guess he's coming on now, so I guess I'll take the Titans. I still think they suck, but the Commanders, all my Commanders fans up here at Penn State that I've met are so out on this team already. I was trying to make a case for them the first 2 weeks. They weren't having it. Looks like they were right, so I'll go Titans.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to agree with that take. I want the Commanders to play better, but I think as both teams are trending, I think the Titans are trending a little bit upward more so than the Commanders because the Commanders kind of got beat down last week, unfortunately, in those cool uniforms they're wearing against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Ryan Tannehill, I mean, he's okay. He's not really a factor here as long as he doesn't, throw a bunch of picks. It's really going to be a Derrick Henry game because Derrick Henry's their whole offense, and I don't think the Commanders, unfortunately, can really stop that because, they have a good defensive line, but if you just run out wide, I don't think their linebackers are stopping Derrick Henry because most people can't. So I don't really see that being a huge issue. I do think the Titans are going to win. I am a Commander sympathizer. They've been through a lot, with Snyder. Just as I am with my owner, Stephen Ross. I hate Stephen Ross and it sucks. And just like I'm sure Commanders fans, they hate John. What's his name? Whatever Snyder, because he also sucks. He's terrible in so many ways.
Yeah.
I feel bad for them, and I want to sympathize for them. I don't think their bounce back game is going to be this week. I think it's going to be next week against the Bears. But for right now, I think the Titans are the pick for this game.
Thursday Night Football, Bears Commanders. Get those Prime subscriptions in. Matt, what do you say?
I got the Titans in this game. I agree with basically everything you guys said. The Commanders have just been a mess, and Dan Snyder is 100% to blame for all of it, all the scandals that come out. My sister's boyfriend, he grew up in DC. He's a Commanders fan, and I always talk to him about how I feel bad that they just can't seem to do anything right, and it seems like it all kind of stems from the top. But for the Titans, I feel like the Titans are going to be up 2 touchdowns in the third quarter and somehow only win by a field goal. I feel like that's how every Titans game has gone this year and for the last couple of years. So
yeah, it's definitely a fair take, but I do think Titans will win. So now we got Saints and Seahawks. Chris Reynolds was on the pod last week. A lot less happy with his team than Matt is with the Saints here. He was world is falling. Then they almost beat the Vikings in London, but they lost on that double doink. Seems like Jameis is trending towards playing, but I don't think that's confirmed yet. But they also have a lot of other injuries. I'm going to go Seattle. I don't want to fully believe in Geno Smith. I don't think PFF put out an article and they said he should make the second team All-Pro according to their rankings right now. That's ridiculous. But Geno has looked really good. The Seahawks looked really good last week. And against this banged-up Saints team, I feel like Pete Carroll is going to find a way to win. So give me the Seahawks in a weird, low-scoring game.
I can get behind that take. I think the Seahawks have been trending a bit upwards. They've played remarkably well offensively. Geno Smith, as we've mentioned time and time again, the guy was a second-round draft pick for a reason. He's played excellent. He's played like the one he was expected to be with the Jets. The Saints have been kind of, all due respect to Chris, who was on the podcast last week, they've been kind of up and down, especially with Jameis Winston. I think if they're smart, they don't play Jameis Winston until his back is fully healed because back injury can be extremely serious. I mean, we saw a back injury ended Tony Romo's career, although there's more going into that, but it definitely didn't help. And, back injury can also just be really serious. Outside of football, that can be a serious injury regardless. I think their best bet is if they want to go anywhere this season, you hope that you start Andy Dalton, hope that he plays at least as well as he did against the Vikings, because I think he played pretty admirably. Yeah. But I do think that the Seahawks are just a better team offensively. Their firepower is insane in terms of what they can do in stretching the field. I just think that sometimes the Saints limit themselves a little bit and they don't throw it downfield as much as they should sometimes, especially with Mike Thomas. He's been in and out of the lineup sometimes with injuries, which definitely weakens their receiving core because that leaves Olave as the number one target. And he's a rookie, and you don't really want to do that to a lot of rookies. So I do think the Seahawks are going to win this game.
I got the Seahawks too. We were talking the other day about Geno Smith being ranked number 2 in the
Yeah.
All-Pro right now. I don't know if I believe in that, but he has been playing very good, great even, and it's surprising to see. But
Yeah.
the Saints, they're injured, and Slant Boy, he's not going to be out on the field to catch 3 passes for 30 yards. So I can't see them pulling this out.
Yeah, I think Michael Thomas, if he did play with Andy Dalton, would revert to slant boy because I thought he was playing pretty well with Jameis, but without Jameis, I think that is what he would be. But yeah, I don't think the Saints can win this. Now we got the Niners on the road for the Panthers in the 4 o'clock slate. I was in on the Panthers. Mike disagreed with me, and he was right. I thought the Panthers were going to have a respectable season. I was very wrong. But between Baker not being that good, Matt Rule's coaching, and DJ Moore, not really getting involved, they've been really bad on offense. Give me the Niners pretty decisively.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think the Niners, as we mentioned against the Broncos, they had a bit of a down game. It seems a lot of teams, as you mentioned, have played down to the Broncos levels. But I think the Niners really showed last week. Even though the Rams are kind of a mid team right now, unfortunately, I thought they were going to be a lot better. Because I like the Rams. I'm a big Aaron Donald fan, even though a lot of people don't like him because they think he's a bully. I like the Rams. And, I think that the 49ers handily showed that they are. They're in the lead for their division right now. They're definitely the best team, and I think they're going to handily beat the Panthers because the Panthers are just awful. And it's a shame because I was really hoping Baker Mayfield would really show out and, show that he could still be a great player, but it seems kind of like he can't, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of Baker this year. I don't know what to make of the Panthers. Matt, who do you got?
I got the Niners. The Niners characteristically always have a great defense, and the Panthers just cannot do anything on offense. I'm pretty sure they're the worst this year so far. And I think the Niners are probably going to put up around like 24 points. And, the way the defense plays, that'll be plenty. The Panthers are going to be down, so Baker's going to be throwing it the whole time. They're going to have a terrible day passing. I think a lot of sacks and a lot of interceptions. So
I think that's a sound analysis of that game. So moving to the last 4 o'clock game because we already covered the Eagles. Rams hosting the Cowboys in LA. I want to go last on this one. So Mike, who you got?
Ooh, I think. Wow, this is actually a tough one. Honestly, I don't know. This is a really weird game to pick because the Rams could have a bounce back game. The Cowboys could continue their success from last week. It's very up in the air. Honestly, I'm gonna pick the Cowboys. Unfortunately, as much as I hate the Cowboys, I'm very much a profound Cowboys hater. I am a Trayvon Diggs hater, especially, and until those prove it to me, I'm gonna keep being a hater of them. But I think unfortunately they are the better team so far because the Rams have been very, very up and down. The Super Bowl hangover has hit both teams incredibly hard. And I just think it's kind of insane, like how bad the Rams are. When honestly they shouldn't be. They're not. The team's not that different from last year, so it's kind of unfortunate to see this happen. But I think the Cowboys are going to win, especially because Dak's coming back this week, right? Isn't he?
No, I think Cooper Rush is getting one more start
Next week.
Dak should be back for the Birds.
Well, Cooper Rush is playing very well, anyways. Yeah. So I guess we're going to see a good game like Cooper Rush again, and CeeDee Lamb maybe might pop off again. So I think the Cowboys are going to win for sure.
Mm-hmm. Matt, what do you think?
I got the Rams. I think they really need a bounce back, and I think McVay will get it for them. Like, you go head coaching, like you mess them up. I can't see Mike McCarthy out coaching Sean McVay.
No.
I think a lot of it depends on how the O-line plays against Micah Parsons. But in the end, like, I think I'll take Cooper Kupp over Trayvon Diggs any day. Like, I think he's going to win that matchup, and that'll end up winning the Rams the game, even though it'll be close. And about the Cowboys, like, just to comment on them, I don't know, like, if they're really waiting for Sean Payton, or I feel like the plan for the last 2 years has just kind of been Jerry just deciding he's going to put all his eggs in the basket of, okay, Mike McCarthy will make enough boneheaded decisions that will fire him, and then I have a perfect excuse to give Kellen Moore the head coaching job out of nowhere.
Yeah, my dad, as you know, Matt, is a Cowboys fan. He is very much subscribing to the Sean Payton theory. He thinks he's the coach next year. But, the Kellen Moore thing's weird because it feels like he gets buzz, even though I think he's a pretty bad OC. So you might be right about that, but I don't know. Like, Sean Payton's been tied to Dallas for many years, and, like, I'm inclined to believe that, but I also don't know if Jerry actually knows what he's doing anymore. So that also might be, you might be right in that they just might not have a direction.
I mean, Jerry Jones seems to be like he's losing his brain at this old age, but I think the whole Kellen Moore buzz, not that I agree with it, is I think because of that first year he was the OC, like he
Yeah.
was pretty decent, all things considered. Like he played, or not played, he coached the team admirably for someone who was new to it, like he was, and I think that a lot of people have just been building off of that hype
I mean, they
since
were the
then.
number one scoring offense in the
So
regular season last year, so I guess there's merit to that, but I don't know.
they
I don't really.
still choked in the playoffs, so I don't think it really matters that
Yeah,
much. They
I
were.
wanted to let me get back to my pick here. Well, I wanted to go last because I thought I was the only one who's going to pick Dallas. But Mike, you surprised me. I thought since you didn't like Dallas, you were going to pick against them. But yeah, I agree. I think the Cowboys can win this game. Matt
Yeah,
makes a great point that McVay, he's not going
yeah,
to be outcoached by McCarthy, but I don't think McVay can coach this team right now to be better than they are. I think Stafford, what that injury he's dealing with, I think there's merit to the fact that that's going to hurt him going forward. Cooper Cup is the only viable offensive option they have, and the defense hasn't been as good either. I like this Dallas defense a lot. I think they're legit. And I don't know. I think they're going to win a weird game on the road. There's going to be a lot of Cowboys fans in LA. So I think they're going to get this win, and then I think they're going to, maybe in Dak's return, maybe suffer a loss to the Eagles. But for now, I'm going to give them another win. I like how they're playing.
yeah. No, for sure, I agree. I think the Cowboys. I agree that Sean McVay is definitely the better coach, but I think Cowboys have just played better as a team.
Hmm.
And so yes, I am a Cowboys hater. You're right. It is shocking that I'm picking the Cowboys, but as much as I hate them, I think I have to pick them. But I'm not happy about it. So
Yeah, and we mentioned the Super Bowl hangover with both teams, and that brings us to the Sunday night game. The Bengals on the road for the Ravens. I got the Ravens in this game. I love how Lamar Jackson is playing this year. I think he's really leveled up his game in a way I didn't expect. I was never the type that said Lamar is like, he's a running back, he shouldn't be a quarterback, whatever. But I didn't know if he could be a top 5 level quarterback in the NFL, and I think he's proven me wrong so far this year. The next step is obviously this Ravens secondary, as we talked about last episode, Mike. They got to play better because they have the talent. But even if they don't, I think the Ravens can win this in a shootout.
yeah, for sure. I think the Ravens. I don't have a lot to say about this game because I think the Bengals have just been very up and down, like a lot of other teams in the league have been right now. And I think
Mhm.
Lamar Jackson, as we mentioned earlier as well, is definitely an MVP candidate right now. And I think he's carrying this team. He's going to carry this team to the playoffs if he keeps playing this way. So I don't have a lot to say. I just think it's going to be a Ravens win. I don't think the Bengals have played remarkably well at any point in the season just yet. So I'm picking the Ravens, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals can pull out a win because I think as you mentioned, the Ravens defense is really bad sometimes, even when they shouldn't be, especially their secondary. Their secondary, you've got two guys, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. These are two excellent cornerbacks, and they're not playing to the level they should be. So that remains to be seen.
I'm going to go against the grain here and take the Bengals.
Okay.
That's fair.
I think, once again, like I think they need it. It's a really hard pick for me. But so far, the Ravens have shown they can't put games away, and the Bengals are a great second half team. I mean, like you saw it last year. Their 2 wins against the Chiefs last year, they were out of those games both times, and their defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, I think that's how you say it. He's like known for making very great halftime adjustments, and the Ravens have just shown that if Lamar Jackson can't do it, they're not winning.
I could definitely see that happening. I don't know. I just kind of like the vibe and get with Lamar, but this is a closer game. So that brings us to the Monday night game, the last game of the slate. Chiefs Raiders. Raiders have been a colossal disappointment for me. I don't know why. Like I thought Josh McDaniels would be better than he's been. I guess I was just he was with Brady for so long, he'll be fine. But he's really starting to look like a fraud, like a lot of Broncos fans said he was. But it's been over a decade, so I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt since his last job, but he hasn't looked great. I know they've been missing Renfro, but I think the Chiefs are gonna just go to town on them on offense this week. I think the Chiefs win this by multiple scores.
I agree. I don't have a lot to say about this game either. I think the Chiefs are going to pound the Raiders into the dirt. I think Josh McDaniels' hire was a bad idea to begin with. I think they're going to sorely miss Rich Bisaccia. I think they at least should have tried him as their head coach at least 1 year because even through all the turmoil that happened with losing your head coach because apparently he's a terrible bigot, losing players because they're just awful people as well. Like it's insane. I was about to say criminals. That's going to sound bad, but I mean they are unfortunately, which is a shame. But it's been a whole mess, especially with their whole GM situation as well. I know Mike Mayock, he hasn't really set up this team for success in the future either. And I just think that Josh McDaniels was not a good coaching hire, and I think they should have at least tried 1 year with Bisaccia as head coach. But he's left for your Packers now, and their special teams has improved as a result.
We've got him, and we've got their pick, and I'm very excited to have their pick next year. Matt, who you think wins this game? I think you're going to agree with us.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think this game, Patrick Mahomes is going to reassert himself at the top of the MVP candidate list. It's probably going to be like a 4 or 5 touchdown day for him.
Yeah.
Because the Raiders' defense is a mess. And yeah, like you guys said, Josh McDaniels has no idea how to create an offense that isn't stale and just like, I don't know what they're doing in LA or Las Vegas. That's what it is. Jeez, they've so many moves. Yeah. Whatever.
Raiders are weird. I love Derek Carr. Obviously, I like Devontae Adams. So it hurts me to see them playing this bad. But like I said, I'm glad we have their pick. But I agree. I think Mahomes, he's only won at 1 MVP so far. So I think he can very much win it again this year. I think that would be very much in play. So I think he'll have a big week. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Fan Committee. Now that we're done with our game picks here. Thank you to Matt for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on. I hope the Eagles keep going on this roll because you know me. When the Eagles are good, I'm in favor of them.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. I'm excited for the Eagles this week. We got the Saints pick next year. Saints looking to lose probably. Yeah. So I'm really excited for this week. I think this is going to be a good week for Philadelphia fans.
Yeah, for sure. And the Sixers coming back soon. Philly's in the playoffs. This is a great time for the city of Philadelphia. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. I put the videos up there. Other than that, thank you guys for listening. Have a great rest of your weekend and have fun watching some football.